how to play support Ash in Evil Dead the game. Now, this is probably the single most interesting character that you could play in this game because he is the most involved character and in my opinion, the most difficult character to play. He involves so much like crazy gameplay of mixing in ranged and melee. He's very complicated. So I hope you enjoy this guide because it takes a lot to get used to playing this guy and using him effectively. And that's why I have him at level 25, and I've even played him quite a bit at level 25 at this point, even off stream, just to get the hang of him, especially with his level 25 ability, which is very, very important. So let's go over his abilities first. Reassuring Presence. When activated, this ability reduces fear levels for you and nearby teammates. It's 50 fear reduction, which is very significant, and a 60-second cooldown. Now, 50 fear reduction is really good. It's excellent at keeping your team from getting possessed, and it's a lot like using a Shemps or an amulet around your team. It's something where you got to keep an eye on people's health bars, the UI in the bottom left, and whenever you see a teammate is about to get possessed, go ahead and use it. I wouldn't recommend using it just to save yourself, which we'll get more into that in a minute when we get to perks, just because supports are typically not a very high priority to possess, and if the demon does possess you over possessing the warrior or especially a hunter, that's a win for the survivors. So not a huge priority to use it to save yourself. Typically you just want to use it when your teammates, especially warriors and hunters, are about to get possessed. Number 2 is alternative healing. This one was recently nerfed about a couple weeks ago, I believe, at the time of this video being made, from 35 to 25. 25 is a flat number. It's not a percentage, so it's 25 HP is healed each time you land a heavy attack. That's all there is to it. I'll get more into what weapons you want to use to really take advantage of that. People have to be fairly close to benefit from this. So make sure that you're attacking units that are closest to the people who are the most injured and need healing the most. At the time of this video being made, you can also farm heavy attacks off of enemies who are stuck in another teammate's finisher animation. So keep that in mind. That's a great way to farm 2 or 3 more hits for a little extra healing. Mark target damage makes it so the headshot will mark the target. A follow-up shot from a teammate will deal additional damage. Again, at the making of the time of this video, this not only applies to a ranged shot like the text would seem to indicate, it applies to any form of damage. So if you headshot an enemy and a melee character runs up and melees that enemy, that will also deal additional damage. Just something to keep in mind for when you're doing this. It does work hand in hand with warriors as of this video being made. Headshot somebody, warrior follow-up does 30% more damage. Excellent for when you're like fighting bosses. Mark target healing does the same thing that last ability just did, except now it will heal your teammate for 30% of the damage that they deal. This is amazing. It also applies to yourself. So if you need to heal yourself at any point, you could just headshot an enemy and then headshot him a second time and heal yourself. And because it applies every single time he shoots, you can farm shots off of the same enemy. So if you have like a low damage weapon like a pistol, you could headshot an enemy and to mark them, headshot him again, heal yourself, headshot him again, heal yourself, headshot him again, heal yourself. You heal yourself on each successive shot. So for perks, this is one of the reasons, aside from his gameplay, that he is so complicated. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with him. Unlike literally every other character in this game, you don't want to deal extra damage with this guy. You can, but I wouldn't personally recommend it, because the more damage you deal, the more it actively works against support Ash and what he wants to do. If he deals excess melee damage, extra melee damage from speccing in to devastating force. He's going to kill enemies faster, which means he gets less hits off, which means he can heal less, or he won't heal for as much. The same thing applies to his ranged attacks and his marked targets. If you put a bunch of points into dealing extra headshot damage and points into hollow points, you're dealing extra range damage, there's a good chance you're going to be one-shotting basic units. And if you can't find a really low damage weapon like a pistol, and you have to settle for, say, a revolver or something, now you're definitely going to be one-shotting basic units, and now teammates cannot take advantage of this amazing 30% heal. Because in an ideal world, an amazing play that you could pull off is if you don't take any extra damage perks, you could use a low damage weapon like a pistol to headshot a random basic unit that's chasing your team through the forest, and your hunter, who's super low HP and has a very high damage single shot weapon like a blunderbuss, can headshot that garbage mob that you marked, and because it deals 30% of the damage that they dealt, they can essentially full heal themselves off of one shot. So you don't want to one-shot people because that's a massive play. It saves you using Shemps. It's a huge deal. So you don't want to deal extra damage with support Ash. There's a lot of funky numbers going on here. I do think you need to put 4 points into Shemps Plus. Quick thing to note is that this does not apply to the healing that you give to teammates. It does not give an additional 30% healing to the healing that goes to your team. It doesn't do that. At least in my testing, it does not do that. I've seen a million comments of people be like, no, I think it does. I've tested it. From my very brief testing, it does not. Maybe I'm wrong. This game is very weird with the way it deals with a lot of the numbers in this game. It's very inconsistent at times, but in my testing, it does not affect it. Still, you should put 4 points into this perk because it will significantly increase the amount of health that you heal yourself for, and in turn make you much tankier. One thing I want to explain for why you're putting 3 points into this is because some people might put 3 points into improved amulet to get 10% extra length on shield bars. That's really the decision you're going to make, is either putting 3 points into this or 3 points into this to max it out. But in my damage testing, again, very, very brief, from what I can tell, and I want to make an entire video that covers health numbers, shield numbers, and all that stuff, but it's very complicated. In my brief testing, a shield bar is worth about 150 HP. Knowing that, getting a 10% increase means that each shield bar gets about 15 extra HP. So for each amulet you use as a support, you're getting an extra 15 HP. However, if you look at Shemps Plus, you already have to have 1 point into Shemps Plus just to start your skill tree. So going off of that 10%, I don't know the exact number of how much a support or any character heals themselves when they use a Shemps. But the support gets a baseline 10% bonus because they have to take that perk. I do know that it's roughly 450 HP to heal others whenever you take a Shemps, and that is a percentage of what you heal yourself. So using the numbers that we heal others, at 10%, it's a 495 HP heal. An additional 20% to get to the max of 30 is a 585 point heal, which is a 90 point HP difference. So if you max this out, you are healing yourself for 90 more HP each and every time you take a Shemps. So compare that to improved amulet, which you should only ever take up to 10%, even if you are interested in using this, because an additional point just for that last 2% is not worth it. If you do this, it means 15 more HP per shield bar for 4 shield bars for a total of 60 extra HP. So you got to use 4 amulets to get 60 more HP Whereas if you max out Shemps Plus, you can use 1 Shemps to get 90 more HP. So Shemps Plus is far more valuable than Improved Amulet. And in fact, based on those numbers, I would say you should never put points into Improved Amulet, with the exception of maybe Henry the Red, because Henry the Red has his level 25 ability that increases the amount of shields he gets, and you can do like a full tank build with him. Anyway, moving on, you only need to put 1 point into Artful Dodger. A second point won't do anything for you. All that will mean is that you'll have a little excess stamina left over after you do your last dodge. 1 point in this will mean that once you max out your stamina pink F upgrades in game, you can do 3 dodges instead of 2. Then I would recommend maxing out balance bar damage for both ranged and melee. As has been said before, supports do deal less damage than the other classes, but their balance bar damage is the same as every other class. So your job as a support, aside from healing people, is to just help contribute balance bar damage to help out your warriors so that you can stun whoever they're fighting faster and they will take less damage. That's all you're really here for, especially as support Ash. You're not here to deal any extra damage. You're just here to heal people. 1 point in a long life battery, so you could get down here. I would say no matter what support you play, you always want to take deep pockets for amulets and Shemps Cola. These are the only 2 things that are absolute musts, and you are a complete jabroni if you don't take 2 out of 2 on both of these. You absolutely, you can think I'm a dum-dum who needs to put points in every other perk in this tree. You need to max both of these. It's foolish not to. Absolutely max both of those. I put 3 points into Reinforced Amulet. It gives a 10% damage reduction when your shield is active. The reason that this is so important is that at baseline, a basic unit does 80 damage on a light attack and 160, double the 80 on a heavy. That means that with 900 HP, a support player can take 11 hits, and then on the 12th hit, they will go down. If you bring this 10% damage reduction, it now means that you can take 12 hits, an extra hit, and then on the 13th, you will go down. And the same thing for heavies. Heavies, without this perk, you could take 5 heavy attacks, and on the 6th, you will go down. With this perk, you could take 6 heavy attacks, and on the 7th, you will go down. Obviously, those numbers will vary depending on the demon player, what perks they're using, what pink F upgrades they have, anything they're bringing that modifies and increases the damage of whatever unit is attacking you. But effectively, what this means is that at the very least, it will result in you being able to take 1 extra hit before you go down, which doesn't sound like much, but it could be the difference between you winning or losing a match. It could be the difference between you being able to take that last hit and pop a clutch Shemps that heals everybody who's super low and going down and game over. So I think it's very important to put 3 points into this. 1 point to first aid. Don't increase this anymore. All these perks for like getting bonuses for when you res somebody are useless. I don't even really want to talk more about it. It's just, they're just not helpful. I was a little iffy on packing pop, which means start the match with an extra Shemps Cola. I do think that you should max it out now, especially because at the time of the making of this video, basic unit early game possession is very meta right now, which means you could get caught before you have a chance to loot enough to max out the number of Shemps that you can carry. So it's very important that you start the game with extra Shemps, so if the demon finds you early, you still have those Shemps to heal yourself with. It can really make a huge difference early game. Industrial strength, increasing maximum health. 20% health is a big deal. You go from 900 health at base to 1080. That's huge. That base, but once again, that basically means you could take another extra hit before you go down. Whether that's 2 lights or 1 heavy. You can max this out to 25%. There's nothing wrong with that. The only reason I don't have it maxed out right now is because, again, at the time of this video being made, this ability perk is bugged. so that when you max it out, it resets your health back down to the base. So if you max it out to 25%, you go from 1080, which is what you will be at level 3, all the way back down to 900. So it's bugged, and you don't want to put a 4th point in it until this gets fixed. When it is fixed, you could go ahead and max it out. Nothing wrong with that. As far as where you would drag that point from, it's really up to you. You could maybe drag it from Shemps Plus, but I'd have to do the math on that. I didn't do the math on that to see if that 5% difference is worth it. It is a 10% difference, so maybe it's not worth it. This might actually be the play, regardless of if this is fixed or not, to be honest with you. So yeah. In fact, I would say just eyeballing it, that probably is the play. All right. Let's get into a match. And let's actually do a solo match, so then that way I don't have to listen to Professor Nobi talking over me the whole time while I'm trying to explain the pink F upgrades. We will get attacked by a demon, but that's whatever. It's an AI demon. If you've never played solo before, the AI demon is awful. They barely do anything the whole game. All right, so let's take a look at his pink F upgrades. Again, he has very odd pink F upgrades. You do not want to... In fact, I would say you don't want to level up ranged at all. That's odd. If you get maximum pink F upgrades, I would not recommend spending points on ranged at all. I wouldn't do it. You don't want the extra range damage. You don't need the extra reload speed for the most part. That's it. You don't want to deal more range damage and wind up killing basic units. So you don't want to upgrade this at all, in my opinion. The first thing I would upgrade is shield. Shield's very important because then it means you can feed your team shield and not waste it. You can, burn through a bunch of your amulets and give your teammates shield while also maxing out your shield and giving yourself more survivability. So I would definitely max out shield first. After that, I would probably max out stamina. You want to get this maxed out as quick as you can, so then that way you can get to the point that you can get 3 dodges. 3 dodges is huge. That's a big deal. Go for stamina next. I would actually do... It's really tough because 5% attack speed seems like it wouldn't make a difference, but it does. And I can feel it. And normally the same thing would apply to melee that applies to ranged, where I would say, hey, you don't want to deal excess melee damage, but the attack speed is important because the more attacks he can get out, especially with that slow heavy attack, then the more healing he can get off. Now, there's something to be said, like maybe you kill units too quickly. I don't really know, but for the attack speed to matter, I'm not really sure. But just for me personally, I tend to go shield, then stamina, then melee. Once I'm done with melee, I'll go for health. Again, make yourself have a little more survivability. And then the last thing I would do is fear, and then I wouldn't upgrade ranged at all. The reason I want to do fear last is because it's the same reason you don't need to put points into the fear reduction perk, is because you don't care if the demon possesses a support. If the demon possesses a support, it's a win for the survivor team. You don't deal a lot of damage as a support as it is, and you especially don't deal a lot of damage as Ash, support Ash, because you're not putting any points into damage perks. You're not even putting any points into your ranged pink F if you're following this guide. So you do no damage. So if you get possessed, great, because you're not going to do anything while you're possessed, more than likely. So that's a win for you. So that's why I would upgrade fear last for sure. As far as melee weapons go, there's really 2 options that you have as far as melee weapons go. That's not it. Where's my display capture? There it is. I got it. We got it, folks. You really have 2 options here as far as melee weapons go, you can either use the hunting knife or you could use the spear. There's a trade-off for both. The spear is surprisingly a weapon that has a 3 speed on it. You wouldn't think it because of its ridiculous range, and it's kind of a bigger weapon, but it has 3 speed, which is the same speed that smaller weapons like the meat cleaver have, which is very surprising. So it's second only to the hunting knife itself. The spear is great for when you get to the point where you're doing the dagger, the pages, and beyond, because you're going to be surrounded by a lot of enemies, and the spear is going to allow you to do wide sweeping swings that will hit multiple targets. In the heavy attack combination using the spear, the first, I think it's the first, third, and fourth attacks in the combo are all wide sweeping swings, which means you're guaranteed to hit multiple targets if you have multiple targets around you. So the spear is really good for when you're going to be surrounded by a lot of enemies. Otherwise, the hunting knife is excellent because of its very, very high speed. Either one works. One caveat: do not take a higher rarity weapon at any point in my recommendation. Even if you get a blue spear, a blue hunting knife, don't take it unless you don't have a hunting knife or a spear already. You want to deal less damage so you can farm more healing hits off of every enemy that you attack. So you don't want to upgrade your rarity with support Ash. As far as ranged weapons go, pistol is your bread and butter. Pistol is really what you're looking for. If for some reason someone on your team has the pistol, like Amanda might have the pistol because she has a weapon mastery in that, then you probably want like the lever action rifle. Again, you want to try to stick to common rarity weapons, and you want to just headshot people and use that as a means to help people deal excess damage, especially against bosses. Try to get those headshots. But for the most part, it's, as far as gameplay goes, you're really mixing in a combination of heavies, dodging out, and then hitting headshots. You have to do a little bit of both. The heavies are the best way to heal multiple people at once, but if you need to give an individual person a big heal, then the headshot and the 30% heal that they get off of that is also really, really good. An amazing play that you can make, like I mentioned earlier, is if you're like communicating and working well with your team. If you have one random little enemy out there, you can headshot them, and if your hunter is low health, they can headshot follow up for huge damage, and that 30% of the huge damage that they deal is going to give them like a full heal. So that's really good. And the same thing really applies to warriors. You can headshot a target, and a smart warrior can then heavy attack them, get that 30% healing off of that, and heal a huge chunk. Your Q ability that lowers fear, you're using that a lot like you would a Shems or an amulet, where once you get near teammates who have high fear, try to get near everybody and hit Q to maximize the number of people you hit with it. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't really want to use it to lower your own fear too often. You mostly want to use it to lower the fear of anyone on your team that could be a threat, which is either your warriors or hunters. And that's pretty much it. You're just going to be spamming a lot of heavy attacks. You're going to be mixing in headshots where you can. Make sure you dodge well with any kind of support unit. A lot of times if a possessed unit is coming at you, a great option is to like dodge through them, and then they'll miss their attack, and now you're behind them, and if they go for a follow-up, a second attack in the combo, they'll probably miss that entirely. Because you have 3 dodges, if they miss even one attack, you can now dodge their full combo. So that's pretty helpful. So this is how you play support Ash in Evil Dead the game. If you have any other tips of your own, let me know in the comments. Hey, about 85% of the people here are not subscribed, so if you haven't already, I'd appreciate you subscribing, especially if this video helps you, and I hope that it does. Hey, all I can really say is thanks for 2K subscribers, which I said in my last video, but I want to say it again. I really, really appreciate it, and thank you for watching once again. I will see you all next time.